choke it out a little bit, open it back up, have more fire, sure, right? It's ventilation limit. Now, if I open this door and close this one, where's that fire going to go? It's going to go to the oxygen, right? It's the inlet, but it's also what? Yeah, but it's also an outlet, which makes it a
Bidirectional.
right? So it's serving two purposes. So eventually, that fire, assuming it's going good enough inside of this room here, is going to make its way over there. And it's especially going to make it over there if I open this up and give it a way to go. Choke itself out. Wasn't going good enough, huh?
There it goes.
So also, that piece of cardboard is kind of like blocking that opening actually a little bit. See if we can push that down. See if we can get it out there now. Sometimes it's literally as simple as just closing that door, letting that smoke build up for a second, and then drawing it back forward. But again, if we did nothing, eventually that fire is going to come here. So, again, thinking 4x4 hole on a roof, 7x3-ish hole. When you open the front door, everything you do is that's going to basically create an opening is going to affect that fire. See if you can open this side. I'll let you stand that way. You open this side, see if you can get that fire spread. Yeah. A lot of times it's trapped. So, again, talking about the neutral plane, it's kind of tough because the wind's kind of hitting this right on the front. But again, if you open that door and you see after a few seconds, you give that smoke a chance to do whatever it's going to do, that smoke's still about midway. You can assume that that fire is either on your level. Could it be above you? Could it be below you? Maybe. But where that opening is in relation to the neutral plane is going to tell you a lot of information about what's going on. So part of the reason that we're not really getting good smoke travel and good fire travel out of there is because the wind's kind of coming right at it. That's all right, because eventually it's going to do what it's going to do. So wind-driven fires, you don't need 30-mile-an-hour winds for wind-driven fires. They found that as little as like 6 or 8 miles an hour can influence fire spread. And is there ever really a day where there's not 6 or 8 mile-an-hour winds in Northwest Ohio? Not where I live, right? So it's out there, it can happen. Brandon, why don't you close that door and open the that plug on the second floor. Now we have our opening. Like we said, it's kind of like a chimney. Close that one down. First that. See that smoke production kick up? Exactly what I want.
What?
I don't want to like tell you it's gonna happen, because then if it doesn't, then I look like an idiot. But again, it's all fuel heat and oxygen, right? It's all fire triangle. We don't need to overcomplicate this stuff. See if you can throw that plug back in there. I'll open this up. Got it? All right, close that. As soon as you close that, I'm gonna close this one and open the first one. Gotta go somewhere, right? Not always like the movie, you're not just gonna open the door and it's gonna explode out at you. Which way is the wind coming? How much heat's goes up in there? How much smoke goes up in there? Where's the fire at? All these things are going to have an effect. But especially when you have an inlet and an outlet, things are typically going to happen. Granted. Look at that. So the important thing to remember is, again, really this is the only room we're putting fuel in, at least is the lower left. So the OSB through the rest of it, yeah, that's contributing, right? So we don't even need fire to come into this compartment to start off-gassing those that OSB, right? Because the smoke's hot enough. The smoke gets that going. No different than smoke letting off over our heads. So like the example I gave you before, and that's the best way I can explain it, is if you wouldn't crawl underneath that burning couch out here, why would you do this? Like I said, I never in a million years thought that I was going to be like a fire science guy, but I just didn't want to see anything happen like what happened on January 26th. So how can we fix that? How can we make that not happen? Hopefully by doing stuff like this. So a little bit of flash out there, not too bad. Brandon, close that one. Open the, yep, open that. Alright, so now we'll close this. You see that fire, again, has to go somewhere. So any opening above the fire is going to typically be an exhaust. Smoke's starting to get a little thicker, right? A little yellower, a little fuel rich. Think it's eventually going to light off? Yeah, probably. Could we choke the fire out this way? Maybe. But if I open up down here, just even a little bit, it's probably going to get a pretty decent splash. Like I said, when I tell you it's going to do something, it doesn't. I look like an idiot. So we put that foam in there, and it was off gas. It was burning so much that it literally choked itself out. Close that one up now. So why did that seem, even though that opening was up there, why did it seem like the fire was coming out of this with more pressure?
Had to go someplace.
Had to go someplace, and that door wasn't open as much, right? So, all right, I'm going to close this rest away. You open that one. Go. So that was actually perfect. I'm glad that it didn't stay there, right? That's exactly what we want to happen. That's just illustrating that you can have fire there, but again, it doesn't mean that's where the fire is at. So we wet this box down so we put this in. We'll crack this rest a little bit. Give it a little bit of what it wants. Watch you slide that plug back in, Brandon.
Keep it from burning.
Yep, that's what I'm thinking next. So we'll open that attic plug, and in this case, it could be something like I said. It could literally just be a balloon frame house, right? Just direct spread to the attic. It's not like we have to pull any ceiling or anything like that. But let's go. So, as much as fire spread and smoke spread has to do with heat and it has to do with pressure, opening size also has a big deal, right? So, one of the things we were always taught is, like, if you're doing positive pressure ventilation, right, you put the fan up and you check around the door, and then you want to make sure that your openings, your other openings, windows or what have you, aren't bigger than the inlet, right? We've all been told that. Actually, what you all found was when you make, the bigger you make those other openings, the more ventilation you get. Because again, it's all pressure. So even that 0.01 PSI is all it takes to move that. So if you have a 7x3 door open and you can open a couple windows, you can open 5 windows on the second floor maybe, positive pressure, it's actually gonna work. It kind of goes contrary to everything we were always taught, but it's gonna work. Trying to get some good fire spread up there. Open that second floor one just a little bit. Oh, that would probably be right. No. Jogging, right? So that could very easily be, yeah, towards that. That could very easily be that gable vent before we get there. Perfect, right? So again, oh hey, we're on scene, we got an attic fire, but little do you know, the fire's ripping down here. Look in this room though. There's a little bit of smoke intruding, but there's no fire in there. Right? I'm not lying to you. Open that one. So did you see where that air was going in? That smoke kind of got sucked in first. It blew out this one real quick, and then it ends up following. Now this thing's going good enough to where we're really going to get it to do what we want. Close that one, Brandon. Give it about 3 seconds and open it back up. Sorry. Wasn't as dramatic as I hoped. But now if you leave that most of the way open and crack that second floor one, now you have vent point ignition on the second floor, and you did on the gable vent for a hot second. Again, you had the fuel, you had the oxygen that's in that flammable range. It just needs the fire. Yeah, this would be a good time for this. Go ahead and close that second one. Close first one. Gotta go somewhere, right? Down about 15, 16. Active flaming. Open that up. Sometimes it takes longer than others. You can still see how much that's chugging out of that little gable vent. So think back to the little video that we saw, right? That 4x4x8 room, and it took 10 seconds or whatever in there. This is what? That little area is like a foot by a foot by a foot. And it still took a few seconds. You guys are probably like, oh man, this is long, so it's not going to be that cool. And it actually did exactly what we wanted. So now I'll close this one. Once you open the second floor. You got some lazy smoke. You're not sure where the fire's at. Coming out of the attic. It's coming out of the second floor. Same kind of thing. That is going to end up being, at one point or another, dangerous. Whether it's bi-directional or not, if I open there, oh hey, we got some smoke coming out of the second floor window, we open the front door. Again, oh, I forced the front door, now I'm waiting for them to bleed the line out. If I'm sitting there masking up on the front porch, I'm not a fan of masking up on the front porch. Just how easy, no matter how many times you've gone to fires, how easy is it to kind of get caught up in the moment and maybe not pay attention to your surroundings. And I'm kneeling down on the front porch after I forced the door, but I forgot to kind of close it. And then that happens in my face. Me, typically, if I'm first or second due at a fire, I mask up on the roof. If I didn't do that, I'd probably never see an actual building on fire, because everybody does in this video, so you just get left in the dust. But it does force you to kind of be ready for that to happen. I'm not breathing air when I get off the rig if I'm first or second due, but now I'm not as worried about that. So again, it's eventually going to find that oxygen. It's eventually going to bleed that pressure off. Go ahead and close that one. Open the roof vent now. So not just the gable vent, but now we actually have, so we open the front door, we didn't really have any explosion. We send a crew to the roof. There's nobody with water on the fire yet. Something as simple as just taking the lid off, right? You've probably heard vertical ventilation referred to as taking the lid off. That relieves pressure, right? And so as it relieves pressure at the top, at the bottom, what's happening? We're bringing in oxygen, which is going to make that fire bigger. So I'm not trying to overcomplicate anything or scare anybody. The whole purpose of this drill really is to give you that better understanding. Like I said, everything goes back to that second slide where it talks about what, how, and why. And if you can explain all three of those things, you're going to be able to do just about anything in this job really, really well. You might be able to wipe that off if you got the torch. So now, again, vent point ignition. You see the fire isn't directly coming out of the attic as the smoke is on fire. You know the fire's down here. But watch what happened when I did that, right? Close it up and there's still fire coming out. It's still bad. But the second I open this up, again, an opening above the fire is always going to be an exhaust. Watch the pressure increase. Alright, why don't you close the attic? Let's see if we can build up some steam. Now this thing's burning good. It's not coming through any of the cracks on the side, so I think the double layers in the burn room is the way to go. Let's open the second floor and see that. So we're going to say that maybe, even though it's the second floor here, maybe that's the first floor and the fire's in the basement, right? Like I said, there's no way for us to tell time. We're talking about it's got a relief pressure, maybe a basement window fails, it gets put back. Whatever the case is, that opening above the fire is always going to end up being your exhaust. We got a bunch of foam in there. We'll try to get some good smoke build up. I'll close this and like two or 3 seconds later open that second floor. So you guys see the fire blowing out the backside of the crack there? Again, it's literally nothing but pressure. That's not good. See if you can light that with the torch. It might go by itself, but And so now it's staying lit, right? So it's a little bit closer to the fire. There's a little bit more risk. Let's see if I can get a little bit of a fog. So it's really small, it's kind of hard to replicate, but obviously fog streams and train air. We can push fire with air. That's something else that I had to take out of this presentation, but is important to still talk about. A lot of times when I teach, open that first floor one just like an inch or so. As I travel a lot of places to teach, you open a little bit more than that. I think a lot of people ask me like, oh, what do you like fog nozzles or smooth bores? And I think they think because I'm like a Toledo fireman that maybe I'll say smooth bores because it's like a big city thing. I'll tell you what, I'll put out a fire with a squirt gun if you give me, if it's full of water, I'll try a squirt gun. I'll take this garden hose inside if it's all I got. The thing is for me, go ahead and close it. Yep. And then open the attic. The thing for me is, as long as I can get water out of it, I'll figure it out. Water balloons, whatever the case is. Whew. At the end of the day, we just need to put water. That's why it's like the top 10 rules, right? So, the important thing to realize is we can push fire. So there were some people that said, no, Nick said you can't push fire, that's impossible. That's not at all what they said. What you can do is you can move air with a hose stream, whether it's a fog, you can have a smooth bore nozzle even, and moving it around in a circle is going to entrain some air. Air will push fire, but water won't, right? Water's going to put the fire out. Now it's literally just pressure. It just needs to go. What's that? All right, open that second. Did you open the attic, Matt? Open that one. And so, how much air I entrain definitely has an effect on that fire spread. So, if I'm going to use a fog nozzle, yeah, I'm going to have it on a straight stream. I'm not going to have it on a fog because it's going to entrain air. It's going to cause more steam. It's going to cause steam faster than it cools the gases, which, again, steam is uncomfortable when I'm in turnout gear, but it's really bad for victims who don't have turnout gear on, right? So, you got the vent still open up there? All right, open that one. About building up that smoke. That's really it. So at the end of the day, like I said, if there's a couple things you take away from this, please let it be that water is the first 10 and the only 10 rules of firefighting. You can't go wrong. And 1,000 gallons in 2 minutes is better than 1,000 gallons over 20. When it comes to saving ourselves, yep. When it comes to saving ourselves and civilians. So watch, this is a great example. So I could put a straight stream in there, like I said, moving it around, it's going to entrain air, cause a little bit of flash. So we want to talk about transitional attack, right? So I got fire coming out of this window. Let's pretend I don't have fire coming out of the attic. See if we can close that up and get it to come out that second floor window. So I get there and there's fire coming out of a window, we want to transition it. Just because there's fire coming out of that window doesn't mean that's where the sea of fire is, right? So if I come up and I transition this, did I put fire out? No. What did I do? I cooled the gases right there, but down here, there's still a bunch of fire. And so I get there, open the door, pretty soon there's fire coming back out of that window. She's like, hey, what are you doing? So I'm not trying to say the transitional attack doesn't work. It does work sometimes. You have to realize exactly is this where the fire's at, or do I think it's somewhere else? So how do you do that? Your clues, right? You're looking at your 360 and you're looking at that neutral plane. All those things need to come into play when you're trying to figure out what tactics to do. I'm not sitting here trying to tell anybody how to run a fire. I just want you guys to, again, understand the why so you can make these decisions, right? Because as much as I'd love to go to a fire in Woodville, unless one comes in like the next 30 minutes, I'm probably never going to go to one with you guys, right? So if I sit here, what's your name? Zach. If I'm like, Zach, you have to fight a fire. This is the way I do it. So to Squad 7, we're the best ever. Like, you don't even know we're so good. I'm being completely facetious. We are not that good.